everyone, I'm Crystal Cruz. Thanks for joining us tonight on News West 9 at 6. Right now, people are casting their votes and are eager to find out the results of several local races across the Permian Basin. If you haven't voted yet, it's not too late. You still have about an hour left. Polls are open until 7 tonight. News West 9 will be your election headquarters, so stick with us as we wait to get those results from many different races. Well, tonight we have team coverage. Stephen Pepper is covering the Midland mayor's race. Sydney Jolivet is following the District 3 race for Midland City Council. Over in Big Spring, Cameron Leal is keeping an eye on Proposition A, a measure that could change how firefighters negotiate with the city. And Sanji Milburn is following the Andrews Emergency Services District proposition. Well, first off, let's check in with Stephen Pepper, who's live at mayoral candidate Judd Campbell's watch party. He's challenging incumbent Mayor Lori Blanc. Stephen, what is the mood there right now?
Yeah, Crystal, the party is just getting started here tonight for Judd Campbell, and I have the pleasure of actually talking to Mr. Campbell right by me right now. Mr. Campbell, polls close in about an hour. This must be a big day for you running for the seat for mayor. Just tell us all how you're feeling.
Well, I'm really excited. It's a big day for Midland, the opportunity for Midlanders to be able to choose the direction that they want for their city, and I'm excited to be a part of it, be here and celebrate.
Now, when those polls close and we get those results in, we find out that Judd Campbell is elected as the next mayor. What would you tell to our Midland viewers at home that this is what Midland's going to look like if you're in office?
Well, really, it's a change of direction to fiscal responsibility, to focusing on the priorities and needs of the people that live here, making sure we have public safety, making sure we have the roads and infrastructure that Midlanders need and desire, and that we have a town that is good for us, that works for the people that live here. That's what we're all here for. That's what we're working towards.
Final question for you, Mr. Campbell. Last time we spoke a few weeks ago in studio, you were pretty critical about the city's current spending, saying they spent some money on wants like the new Costco rather than needs. If we find out tonight that you were elected the next mayor of the city of Midland, what would you say to taxpayers that their money will go to the right place?
Well, that's what I'm here for, is to bring fiscal responsibility, conservative values to the city, and make sure that we respect the taxpayer dollars and spend it on things that are important, that are the right priorities for Midlanders.
Mr. Campbell, thank you so much for your time. And be sure to be back here tonight at 10. I know polls close in an hour, but tonight at 10, I'll have a live interview with the person he's running up against, the incumbent, Mayor Lori Blanc. Reporting live in Midland, I'm Stephen Pepper for News West 9.
All right, Stephen, thanks. District 3 voters in Midland are deciding tonight who will represent them on the city council. Two candidates are challenging incumbent Jack Ladd for the seat. One of them, Shandy Williams. She says she's ready to bring a new voice to City Hall. Our Sydney Jolivet is live outside a polling station in Midland tonight with Mrs. Williams, who is running for office for the first time. Sydney.
All right, Crystal, thank you. That's right. We're here at the Midland County Public Library. And Shandy, it's election day and you're running for the first time. How are you feeling today?
I feel absolutely phenomenally at peace. This has been an incredible journey and experience and adventure, and I'm just so grateful for the opportunity.
Absolutely perfect. So if those results come in around 7 o'clock, those polls will close and election results will start rolling in. If you are elected, what is that day one plan for you?
Day one plan starts immediately, and that's going to be starting to get the voice of the people. What are their major concerns? And right now, concerns are water security as well as road infrastructure. And so we need to start getting plans in place that we can take to the council and start getting those projects initiated just throughout the community. And we really need to take a look at our budgets.
And so you've been campaigning here since 2. You've been here since the polling locations opened. You've been back and forth in Midland. What has kind of been that community response, seeing you on the front lines on Election Day?
We've had a lot of thumbs ups. People have been very friendly. We only had one person give us a thumbs down, and so that's been great. We've got people driving through just like right now with trailers with our signs. And, honks and, just the support and the things that are going, through the community. We've actually seen them rallying together around us. And, it's kind of great because this is a grassroots movement here.
Perfect. And so looking over your campaign path and everything that from going door to door to Election Day, everything that's happened in between, how do you feel about the campaign that you've run?
Oh, I think it is absolutely a race that I am proud of. I can say that honestly. We have put boots on the ground. We have put hours and due diligence into every constituent that we possibly can reach in a very short time period. We've had some situations where there's been some time constraints and other people were able to step in. So God provided us a little army of honeybees, and we just all started working, and it has been wonderful.
Perfect. And last question for you. If there's anybody that's watching, anybody that's listening that hasn't cast their ballot yet, what would you say to them?
Go out and vote. It's not just your city elections that are important right now. We've got 17 propositions, and one of the things that I'm due is Transparency Tuesday, and a lot of people were completely shocked to find out one of the propositions, Proposition 15, is for parents to govern their children as they see fit. They're going to be the oversight of what they feel should happen for their children, whether it be school, medical access, whatever it may be. And we shouldn't think that that's a law that needed to be a law, but evidently it does, and it's an amendment. So we need to be out and we need to be voting, especially to take care of our children.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time, and good luck to you today. Remember, everybody, you got about 45 more minutes, 50 minutes until those polls close. And we'll bring you election results on air and online. Reporting live in Midland, Sydney Jolivet, News West 9. Back to you, Crystal.
Yeah, Sydney, it looks like a great last hour to go out and vote. Temperatures are starting to fall a little bit now that the sun is setting, but we stayed pretty warm. We're out of the 80s, but come on. 70s like this is perfect. 76 degrees, you got low humidity, you got a light wind coming in from the south. Now that southerly wind has been keeping much of the area pretty warm, so across all of West Texas, a nice even mix of those upper 70s to mid 70s to those lower 80s in places like Pecos as well as Fort Stockton. Nothing to worry about on radar. No significant cloud cover, no rain chances, and it looks to stay like that. So get out there now while you can, because temperatures are just going to keep on falling now that the sun is down. Crystal?
Jordan, thanks. Well, now let's go to Edgar County, where there is an $11 million road bond on the ballot known as Proposition A, but only people in a certain subdivision in the county actually get to vote on it. That's because they're actually voting to tax themselves to repair their roads. Sterling Park is a private subdivision with homes, businesses, and RV parks, but the roads are falling apart. Residents say they bought land from a private developer who promised to maintain the roads, but it didn't happen. Now they want the county to maintain the roads, and they're willing to tax themselves to pay for it. If it passes, residents will pay back the $11 million over 25 years through property taxes.
Well, we still see those temperatures going all over the place between night and day, but what exactly can you expect as the week continues? Stay tuned. I'll break it down for you next. Those temperatures are starting to quickly drop now that the sun has gone down, but it's not too bad considering it was a rather warm afternoon, maxing out in those low to mid 80s. Getting a little bit too close to comfort for the records, but that's what tomorrow and Thursday are for. Yeah. All right, here we are, 76, low humidity, high pressure, and a nice southerly breeze, meaning that radar is empty. And temperatures, as we head into the overnight hours, they're starting to get a little bit wonky, mainly because of the differences in geography around the area. Ozona already down to 70, Big Bend still at 87, Pecos and Fort Stockton 82 and 83 respectively, much of the basin mid 70s. Radar is empty. The only interest I had was this one little band of clouds that is kind of falling apart as it moves across Pecos and the I-20 corridor. So what does that mean for the overnight hours? Well, by early tomorrow morning, we're going to be dipping down into those lower 50s, a little bit on the warmer side for this time of year, but certainly nothing that we can't handle. By tomorrow, yeah, I don't have a hot coffee forecast. I have an iced coffee forecast. We're easily getting into those mid to upper 80s. A couple of 90s are certainly possible, just not widespread, at least across the bigger cities in the Permian Basin. Good for medium size, and I will happily take that, because southerly winds keep their influence over the region really for the next couple of days until we see a cold front, and that's likely not until Friday. So here we are, southerly winds, very minimal cloud cover, no rain chances, a very boring forecast. So you know what? Use it to your advantage. Get some outdoor work done. You need to run some errands, wherever you need to go. Weather's not going to be getting in your way, so go ahead and hit up that car wash. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all going to be good days, and yes, go ahead and add the wax for when it eventually decides to rain. It won't be any time in the next 9 days, though. We just have that small dip on Friday, going back up before we dip again big on Sunday, Monday, and then, hey, look, nice mid-70s for much of next week. I'm looking forward to that. Crystal?
Jordan, thanks. Well, 2 major propositions are now in voters' hands tonight. Up next, we'll hear from News West 9's Cameron Leal, who's at the Ryan Hall event venue in Big Spring, where she'll speak to Matthew Brad about a proposition to let firefighters have collective bargaining with the city. We'll also hear from News West 9's Sanji Milburn about the Andrews County Proposition A to create an emergency services district. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. Continuing our election coverage, we now turn to some other propositions on the ballot tonight. Let's take you out to Big Spring, where all eyes are on Proposition A. That's the measure that would give local firefighters the right to collective bargaining with the city. News West 9's Cameron Leal joins us live from one of the polling sites in Big Spring. Cameron, you've been talking to voters and local firefighters about what this could mean for the community.
Yes, Crystal, I'm here at Ryan Hall on Main Street in Big Spring. This is one of just 4 voting poll locations, and joining me is Matthew Burrows, the president of the Big Spring Firefighters Association. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So with the 45 minutes-ish that voters have to come and vote, what do you want them to know about Prop A?
Yeah, we're out here because of public safety. We believe in this. Prop A does not raise taxes. It only gives us a fair seat at the table.
Absolutely. And so with the steady turnout that we've seen throughout the day, what has been the community response so far from voters?
It's been great. We've had a lot of people come up and ask us questions. We got to talk about this. They understand that this is a clear, transparent process, and they believe in our firefighters.
Absolutely. And if Prop A does pass, what do you want to see immediate impact for the overall department?
Yeah, so right away, our morale is going to go through the roof. The voters are going to say that, yes, we do believe in you guys, we do believe in your voice, and we want public safety to be #1 for our community. And then we'll get started right away on negotiations with the city.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Matthew, for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
And don't forget, voters, you still have some time to come and vote until 7 o'clock. News West 9, Cameron Leal. Crystal?
All right, thanks, Cameron. Well, Howard County voters will see a proposition on the ballot. Prop A would create the Howard County Emergency Services District #1. It would allow the district to tax you up to 10 cents for every $100 of property value. This tax increase would help fund emergency services out in the county. Over in Andrews County, a proposition on the ballot could impact emergency services there. Sanji Milburn joins us live at the James Roberts Center in Andrews, where people are casting their votes. How is the voter turnout, Sanji?
That's right, Crystal. Things are starting to wind down here at the James Roberts Center. But as you can see, residents are still coming by to make sure their votes count. Now, one proposition that's on the ballot is the Emergency Service District, which could improve response times and save lives. Now, the ESD will combine fire and EMS under one budget, operating as its own entity. Right now, EMS is funded by the hospital, while the volunteer fire department is funded by the city and county. This all started a few months ago when a group of residents came together to create an ESD. They signed a petition, and with over 100 signatures, it was submitted and approved by the Commissioner's Court. If approved, property owners would pay a 10-cent tax for every $100 of property value to fund the district.
Having emergency services that have reliable, dedicated funding and personnel in place that can respond as soon as the call is made, that helps the community, help those who are less fortunate.
Now remember, the polls close at 7 p.m. and I'll keep you updated as I get the results. In Andrews, Sanji Milburn, News West 9.
Well, now let's talk about school funding. A lot of school districts are asking voters to approve a tax rate hike to help fund their maintenance and operations fund. Andrews ISD is asking voters to approve a tax increase to help balance next year's budget. State law requires districts to hold a tax ratification election anytime they want to raise the rate above a set point. This 2-cent increase would bring in about $1.7 million for Andrews ISD's operating budget. Money to help keep class sizes small, pay teachers and staff, and cover daily costs. Like many school districts in West Texas, Andrews started their year with a budget deficit, and even with a state funding boost, they say most of that money is already spoken for. In Coahoma, voters are being asked to approve a school district tax hike there of a little more than 91 cents for every $100 of property value. The district says this would mean more money for maintenance and operations. That's about a 17% increase from last year. In dollars, roughly around $2.46 million more in funding compared to the previous year. As for Coahoma ISD voters, again, you will see that on the ballot. Well, voters in Martin County will weigh in on a school tax proposal for Sands Consolidated ISD. The Proposition A asks to approve, again, a property tax hike. Theirs is a little more than 95 cents for every $100 of property value. If this one passes, the district says they'd see a small bump in revenue, about $35,000 more than last year, to also help fund their school maintenance and operations. Fort Stockton ISD also asking voters to pitch in a little more than $1 per $100 property value for their maintenance and operations. If voters approve Prop A, it would give the okay to raise a little more than $1.3 million for them, which they say would help pay for teachers and staff and student programs. Also, FISD's Proposition B will allow the Fort Stockton School District to pay off existing maintenance debt using a bond. The district plans to issue more than $10 million in bonds to replace an old note. The taxes collected will be used to pay back the principal and interest on these bonds. Essentially, this is basically a way to manage existing debt while keeping money available for things like school improvements, safety upgrades, and student resources. And under Proposition C, FISD wants to issue $5 million in bonds to fund school stadium facilities. Taxes collected, if needed, will go toward paying back the bonds and interest. Well, our election coverage continues tonight. We're tracking more races throughout the Permian Basin. After the break, we'll get you caught up on other ballot propositions across the basin. Well, a few West Texas cities are asking voters to dig a little bit deeper into their pockets. Voters in Reeves County will see a measure on the ballot about street funding in Pecos. This proposition asks whether to continue a local sales tax that's 0.3% to help pay for maintenance and repairs on city streets. This is not a new tax. It's a reauthorization of one that's already in place. If voters say yes, the tax will stay for another 4 years. If not, it expires after this election. So essentially, it's about keeping that funding flowing for road work in Pecos. Also on the ballot in Reeves County, Pecos voters will decide whether to give the mayor and city council a pay raise. The proposal would set council members' pay at $12,000 a year, the mayor's pay at $15,000 a year, plus health insurance benefits. The city would also cover official expenses for the mayor and council members. If approved, the pay would be funded each year through, of course, the city's budget. In Big Lake, the Reagan County Hospital District is asking voters to approve a $25 million bond. Now, if approved, the bond would fund some major improvements. That includes new assisted and independent living facilities, a brand new wellness center with medical offices for specialists, and upgrades to the physical therapy department. In Presidio County, voters are deciding whether the county should borrow $5.5 million to improve local buildings and roads. The money would go toward renovating the county courthouse and annex, also fixing and upgrading roads and bridges, sidewalks and lighting, and making areas more accessible for just about everyone. It would also cover new equipment and vehicles for road and bridge work, plus professional services tied to those projects. Again, if approved, the county would pay back the loan through local taxes over time. Well, don't go anywhere. After the break, we'll give you a breakdown of some important Texas constitutional amendments that could actually save you some money. We continue our elections coverage with a look at some of the 17 proposed state constitutional amendments. Let's talk about two props that have widespread support because they save you money on your home. Both increase homestead exemptions. Starting with Prop 11, here's what you see on the ballot. It increases the school property tax exemption for the elderly or the disabled. During the 2023 legislative session, lawmakers voted to increase the property tax exemption to $100,000. But the additional exemption given to Texans ages 65 and older and those who are disabled did not change. It stayed at $10,000. Now, if this prop passes, the additional savings given to seniors and those who are disabled would increase to $60,000, saving the average older Texan about $450 on their school tax bill every year. A lot of older and disabled Texans are on fixed income, so as property values across the state increase, it can be harder for seniors to stay in their homes. Supporters say this will help, and school districts wouldn't lose any money because the state would put more money in to make up the difference. That is also the case if this proposition passes, Prop 13. It increases the homestead exemption for all of us, going from $100,000 to $140,000. This one's pretty easy to understand. The author of the bill, State Senator Paul Bettencourt, talks about the impact it would have for all Texans.
Well, the key component of SB 4 is that it raises the homestead exemption. When a homeowner gets a higher homestead exemption, it means they pay less. And on school taxes, it's really important. We've had a great run at raising the homestead exemption up to $100,000, but now we're going to go another 40%, raise it up to $140,000, and that saves the average home $363 a year, every year, for the rest of their lives.
Now, if both of those propositions pass, Texas seniors and the disabled would get a property tax exemption of $200,000, which means a supermajority of seniors won't have to pay any school taxes. Again, supporters say this provides real tax relief, but opponents warn if there's an economic downturn and Texas is faced with a budget deficit instead of a surplus, lawmakers could cut funding to public schools. After all, this actually happened in 2011. Now let's talk about two propositions to give property tax exemptions to Texans who face hard times. First up is Proposition 7. Here's what you see on the ballot. Now, it's a lot of wording, but all this means is this will allow Texas to exempt property taxes for the spouse of a veteran who dies because of a condition or disease they presumably got while serving our country. Right now, Texas completely exempts a veteran's home from property taxes if they are 100% disabled as a result of their service. And when that veteran dies, the exemption passes down to their spouse. But there is a gap. Veterans who died after developing conditions because they were exposed to things like burn pits, Agent Orange, and other toxic substances weren't all rated as 100% disabled. But Texas lawmakers want to give the same property tax exemption to these veteran spouses as they do others who died as a result of serving our country. Supporters say it will help military families, but opponents say property tax exemptions reduce the amount of money that could actually go to Texas schools. Now let's talk about Proposition 10. This one has to do with home appraisals and what happens if your home catches on fire. Right now, property appraisals are assessed in January, and if your home catches fire and is destroyed, there's no way to get a new assessment. If this prop passes, a homeowner could request a new appraisal within 180 days of the fire that burned down your home, and you could potentially get to pay a prorated rate. Supporters say this would give a little help to homeowners facing a disaster, but it would only apply to homes that are completely destroyed and only by fire, not other disasters. Two propositions will offer tax breaks to business owners. Right now, and I didn't know this, animal feed is generally a tax-free item in Texas. Farmers don't pay property taxes on the feed when it's harvested, and ranchers don't have to pay taxes on it when they buy and store it. But businesses do have to pay property taxes when it's sitting in storage waiting to be sold. That would change if Prop 5 passes. The words can be a whole lot to digest here, but all this means is that the prop gives the legislature permission to enact a new law so that the owner of a retail store wouldn't have to pay property taxes on its animal feed inventory. Lawmakers already passed that bill, but it's up to you to decide if it goes into effect. Supporters say it could save farmers and ranchers money in a time when they could use a little help. And the Legislative Budget Board, which estimates how much bills would cost the state, reports Prop 5 won't have a significant impact on the state's budget. But some people think other businesses have to pay taxes on their inventory, so why should animal feed be any different? Speaking of business taxes, right now local taxing entities, think cities, counties, schools, can tax businesses for the personal property they use. We're talking about your computers, vehicles, manufacturing equipment, and more. This is all called tangible personal property. The state offers a $2,500 exemption for items businesses use to run their business, but Proposition 9 would increase that. Here's what you see on the ballot. Again, it's more ad valorem taxation and tangible personal property. What all this means is it allows the legislature to enact a bill that, again, is already passed to increase the exemption on tangible personal property up to $125,000. Supporters says it will ease the tax burden on small businesses. Opponents point out the legislature isn't giving cities, counties, schools, or other taxing entities more money to make up for the tax dollars they won't collect. A handful of the propositions would prohibit the legislature from creating certain taxes, including Prop 8. Here's what you see on the ballot. To sum it up, it prohibits the legislature from imposing death taxes. Right now, Texas does not have an inheritance tax. State lawmakers voted to get rid of it in 2015. This proposition would put it in the Constitution that lawmakers are banned from creating a death, estate, or inheritance tax and from transfers or gifts of those things. Supporters say people have already paid taxes on their assets, so this eliminates double taxation. And they add it would encourage wealthy Texans to stay in the Lone Star State. But opponents see this as a way the state could make money in the future to pay for public services.
Well, you still got a little bit of time left to hit those polls, and as long as you're in line before 7, you're good to go. Temperatures will be dropping pretty quickly. Make sure you have that light jacket handy. For the rest of the week, it's all over the place, but I'll break it down for you next. Are you used to these early sunsets yet? Because I'm not. Here we are though. Temperatures cool off pretty quickly. It's just after 6:30. We're in those mid 70s after we kind of ended the afternoon around those mid 80s. Certainly warm for this time of year, but of course it's kind of because we got strong wind coming in from the south. It's going to keep that flow over the next couple of days, and with high pressure preventing any kind of cloud cover, rain chances. Yeah, we're just going to be staying on the warmer side. Some places a little bit hotter than others. Fort Stockton and Pecos today have been very, very close to hitting that 90-degree mark. They're still in those lower 80s, same along the Rio Grande, but higher elevations tend to drop off pretty quickly, and Ozona has kind of been our outlier today, already in those 60s, lower 70s in places like Alpine as well as Marfa. Nothing happening on radar or satellite. We just had a couple of those passing clouds move over Reeves County and kind of fizzle out right over the I-20 corridor. Beyond that, hey, great night for some stargazing because there is not going to be a single cloud in the sky, and temperatures, while on the cooler end compared to what we've been at lately, still above average. 52 degrees, not bad at all. I'm trying to save money on my AC bill. I don't know if it's working though. Especially considering that tomorrow we're going to be nearing some record high temperatures. The record for tomorrow at Midland International is 89 degrees. Will we get there? Well, I'm saying we're going to fall just shy of it, but still pretty warm. 87 for the 5th day of November. Okay. Southerly winds maintaining that kind of abnormally warm conditions, very similar to how we started off the first week of October, and it's going to stay that way throughout much of your Wednesday into your Thursday as well. Nothing big happening across the state, so no significant travel delays or anything like that. As a matter of fact, go ahead and take advantage of this. Get those outdoor errands run. Make sure you head to that car wash the next couple of days. All great days to do so, and go ahead and add the wax in case we have some surprise rain chances. But surprise, there are no rain chances, at least over the next 9 days. I do have some small cold fronts, one in particular on Friday. It's a small one, it's a dry front. And then Sunday, very similar, another dry front. That one looks to drop us down about 20 degrees though. Make sure you have those jackets handy, Crystal.
All right, looking forward to that fall-like weather. Well, our election coverage continues. We're tracking more propositions on the Texas constitutional ballot, from bail reform to a water fund and creating a dementia research center. We'll have it all after the break. Just want to let you know you have about 15 more minutes to go stand in line to vote. As long as you're there by 7, they'll still let you cast your ballot. Let's go ahead and continue looking at these Texas constitutional propositions. One of them would do away with bail for certain violent offenses. Proposition 3 would require judges to deny bail in certain cases for people accused of violent or sexual crimes. Now, under the current Texas Constitution, most defendants have the right to be released on bail except for certain cases like being charged with capital murder or accused of certain repeat felonies. Proposition 3 would broaden that, adding crimes including sexual assault and indecency with a child. Now taking a look at Proposition 12, it has to do with appointing members of the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. It's the agency that investigates claims of misconduct made against judges. Right now, the governor, the Texas Bar, and the State Supreme Court each appoint a certain number of members. Under Proposition 12, the State Bar won't get to appoint any new members, giving the governor the power to appoint 7 of the 13, all of which would need Senate confirmation. The 7 judges that make up the panel that reviews the SCJC would all be appointed by the Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court, and judges would get a little boost in pay. Supporters say Texas judges need raises to keep talented professionals here, and note this could help ease a backlog of complaints against judges, but opponents are concerned about the governor having too much influence over this commission.
To change the composition in the way that the amendment calls for puts more power in the governor's hands in terms of appointments, and also the Texas Supreme Court. It can become overly politicized, and so we did not want to support something that put more power in the governor's hands to appoint members to punish judges.
Well, one of the constitutional amendments would boost funding for water projects, and West Texas leaders are behind this one. State Proposition 4 would set aside up to $1 billion per year for the Texas Water Fund. That money would go to water supply projects like fixing old water infrastructure and flood protection plans. State Senator Charles Perry, who wrote the bill that got the item on the ballot, says things like leaky infrastructure and water loss are a big deal, but finding new water supply projects is a big key.
So it's a big issue. It's a local issue. State's here to leverage and help some of that. $500 million of that billion goes to those buckets that make leaky pipes an eligible project. But I want to focus on making sure we get the most development of new inputs.
With West Texas already facing water supply challenges, supporters say it's a crucial step toward securing long-term water access for the region. This next constitutional amendment, sponsored by our very own state representative Tom Craddock of Midland. Proposition 14 would give $3 billion to create the Dementia Prevention and Research Institute of Texas, along with research funding. At the age of 55, Americans have a 42% chance of developing dementia. State lawmakers say Texas already has the 3rd largest number of dementia patients in the country, and the elderly population in the Lone Star State is expected expected to double to 70 million by the year 2030. So to accelerate research on dementia, lawmakers suggest creating DPRIT. It would operate similarly to the state's Cancer Research Institute, administering grants. The $3 billion investment would sustain the institute for 10 years. Tom Craddock says this money only funds research, not salaries, so the state can focus on solutions.
We did that because that would excite people that contribute to things. The state's in the same deal. They don't want to be eaten up by just, somebody using it all, hiring somebody and paying. They want it to be used for the research. Hopefully they'll find a cause for things.
Supporters say not only will this prop help people, Texas could become a leader in dementia research, bringing it top talent to the state, but opponents have expressed concern about Texas stretching itself too thin, taking on too many initiatives. Well, it's election day all across the country. All eyes are on the outcome of certain races. Experts say this is a litmus test on some voters' feelings about President Trump and his actions and on Democrat policies. We'll take a look at some pivotal races next. As Americans head to the polls today for elections, it could shed some light on what next year's midterms will look like. This is the first election since President Trump took office, and the outcome may have an effect on his agenda. Voters have their chance to have their voices heard across the country, but races to watch are in New York City, New Jersey, and Virginia. Monica Alba has the details from Washington.
Election day across the country, with the outcome a reflection of some voters' feelings on President Trump and his actions.
I definitely think it's a referendum on Donald Trump and just the direction the country's going in.
But also on Democrats, trying to regroup after last year's losses. In New Jersey, where Democratic Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill
Morning, guys. How are you?
is in a tight race with Republican Jack Ciattarelli, President Trump's choice.
I think he's better to handle all the problems that we're facing right now.
Both candidates casting the election as a vote on affordability.
Food prices, gas prices, inflation, nothing is being done.
The same issues facing candidates in Virginia, where two women are vying to be the first female governor of the Commonwealth, which is home to thousands of federal workers who lost their jobs to DOGE, the president's Department of Government Efficiency.
Are you ready to win?
Former Democratic Representative Abigail Spanberger making the cuts, the economy, and tariffs big campaign points, facing incumbent Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears, who has aligned herself with outgoing Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin and President Trump.
It's election time! That's what time it is!
To New York City and a mayoral race in the national spotlight.
It is time now for a new day in our politics.
Self-described Democratic socialist Zoran Mamdani energized New York City voters. President Trump calling Mamdani a communist, threatening to withhold federal funds from the city if he wins, and last night throwing his support behind former Governor Andrew Cuomo, now running as an independent. But Cuomo rejecting the president's endorsement.
And if there's anyone who can protect New York against President Trump, it's me.
All this playing out against the backdrop of a government shutdown now in its 35th day. But there are some signs of optimism on Capitol Hill, with Maine Senator Susan Collins, who heads the committee that writes spending bills, saying she's cautiously hopeful it could come to an end this week. In Washington, Monica Alba, NBC News.
We'll have a last look at your forecast next.
All right, the polls are closing in 2 minutes. Hopefully you guys have already cast your vote, because tomorrow you can't vote on the weather because, yeah, look at that. We're going right back up. I don't think anyone would have personally voted for this, but nonetheless, you know what? We dropped down a little bit on Friday, a little bit more comfortable. We heat back up for your Saturday, and then we take a really big dip with a strong, dry cold front Sunday into Monday. We heat back up into those 70s, and we should be around the lower 70s, so mid-70s, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, still pretty nice.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to join us tonight at 10 for all your election coverage.